All right. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us to our weekly webinar series for the spring semester. My name is Tiffany Grant Simmons. I am officially Dr. Tiffany Grant Simmons, and I am one of the graduate assistants in the EdTech department. My other colleague, Mr. Jamal Johnson, is another graduate assistant in the EdTech department. So we thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dana Mason, and she's going to tell you about our department and our program, and I'll be back with you shortly.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. We're so glad you could be here. Just want to give you a little information since we are the Educational Technology Department here at New Jersey City University. We have some really great things going on within the EdTech family. We've got a few things I can brag about up front that I'm especially proud of, but our Educational Technology Department is ranked first nationally for affordability and student-centered learning. Our MA program is ranked third nationally as an online technology program, and our doctoral program, which is also online, it's a ranked ninth nationally for affordability and return on investment. So I'm really proud of those statistics. It's really wonderful to be part of EdTech and all the emerging things that our students are doing. So I just want to share with you a little bit about our degree programs. So our MA in Educational Technology is a 36 credit program. It's fully online. And this you can take, people complete it in just over 2 years or so, but you can take it faster or slower as you need. And this is great because it being fully online and asynchronous, you don't have to show up at specific times. There's deadlines and there are projects and a lot of wonderful project-based opportunities for learning. So you're not also not taking quizzes or tests. You're completing real tasks, learning how to use things, and apply them immediately into the field. So those are a lot of fun, and it fits into your schedule very conveniently because there's no scheduled specific times. If you need support, you can work with your professors and your advisors, and they're happy to help you through as you're going, and you get support when you need it in the form that you need it. Our MA in Educational Technology specialization in school library media is our other MA program, and this helps you get your certification for becoming a school librarian. And we know that the School Library Media Center is very different than it's been in the past few years. We have technology and STEAM and literacy and all kinds of other things happening all in this one space. So they wear a lot of hats, but it's a lot of fun and you get to do really creative things with students. This program is also fully online. It's a 36 credit program that prepares you for this, and it's part of the state requirements. You'll come out with a full certification for that as well. Then we have our doctoral program. So our doctoral program is the Educational Technology Leadership Program. So I see a bunch of our current students and some alumni as well on our webinar this evening. So I'm glad you guys are with us. This is a 60 credit program. It goes over 3 years. This is also virtual and asynchronous. So same thing as the other two. The only difference is as you move through it in 3 years, every summer we connect with everybody in person for 1 week. So it kind of starts in the summer and cycles through that way. And this way everyone gets to do the summer institute together. You meet your other peers in the cohorts that you're working with. You get to meet your professors, and there's a lot of hard fun that we like to do and a lot of other cool activities that and unique experiences. I know in the past we had the Red Bulls experience where we did on-field kickoffs and raising the flag and all kinds of great things. But it's a lot of wonderful team building as well, and that carries you through with all of the different things that you're doing in your courses and your coursework. So you have the camaraderie as well as the support from the people in your program. So, if going through another degree is not something that fits your time right now, you might be looking for higher attainment. And that's if you need some credits to go to the next bump in the pay scale. These are some programs that could help and be a great support. We have an assistive technology specialist certificate, and this is a state certificate program. So it's 1 year fully online, 5 courses total. This is a total of 15 credits. And this helps you learn how to utilize assistive technology in a special education setting and how to integrate that into a regular ed setting, an inclusion setting, a self-contained setting, and help people with all various abilities and exceptionalities as well. So it's a really fun program and it goes pretty much through the course of a year. Then we also have the STEM certificate program. And this is a 4 course program. 12 credits. And the great thing about both of these is that when you complete either of them, they also transfer right into the master's program as well. So if you're looking to do a master's degree, or maybe you just kind of want to do your STEM certificate because it's a small amount of time in terms of commitment, whatever you complete, you can put directly towards a future master's degree should that be a direction you're looking to go. So it's a great opportunity. The STEM certificate talks about convergence education and helping work science, technology, engineering, and math all at the same time with whatever domain you teach, whether it's early childhood, language arts, music, art, social studies, science. You can find different types of ways to integrate these learning experiences. So it's more of an inclusive experience for students. It's layered differently. So when we layer those learning experiences, they solidify the enduring understandings in a much more effective way for our students. And it's just more fun when we can do a lot of project-based learning and add that into something that we're working with on the regular. So these are great opportunities. If you're interested in learning about more, you have questions, or anything that I shared tonight piques your interest, here is our information for contacts. You can reach out to us, and I'll also put this in the chat so that you'll have a chance to obtain that a little bit later. I know that now that we're all getting settled. So I don't want to spend much more time talking about this. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Grant Simmons so that she can help get this started and kick it off, and you can hear from our amazing presenter this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mason. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. This evening we have Mr. Douglas Bailey, who is in cohort 12. He's going to be presenting this evening. So without further ado, Douglas, please take it away.
Thank you everyone for showing up and just being here. I'm excited to present to you all tonight something that has been a very big interest of mine, executive functions, and we're combining that with some STEAM applications. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. Right, that should pop up shortly. There we go. Okay, so strengthening time management and task initiation through STEAM applications, presented by myself. Okay. All right, so this is just a small presentation overview of the things that we're going to be covering tonight. We're going to be talking about what STEAM is and how it applies to executive functions, and we're going to do a small overview of executive functions. We're going to talk about some issues, executive dysfunctions, some problems that occur with students that are struggling with time management and task initiation. We're going to check out some strategies, of course, some which are STEAM powered, ways that we can improve task initiation and time management. And then, of course, we're going to go over some practical applications and a brief final overview of exactly what STEAM can do to help to improve the executive functioning of task initiation and time management. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today's presentation is going to focus on how STEAM applications and approaches strengthen the executive functions of time management and task initiation. I wanted to have an age group of high school age students and college students between the ages of 14 and 24. Executive functions are strongly developed between the ages of 17 and 22, but it's never too early to start practicing to work on executive functions. In terms of STEAM, research has shown the importance of the arts in appealing to a broader and diverse group of learners, and STEAM promotes organic problem solving of real and complex problems, per Dr. Kristen Cook. So let's talk a little bit about STEAM. What is STEAM? We're talking about an acronym that contains the following subjects: science, which is exploration and discovery through scientific inquiry; technology, our digital tools and computational thinking. We have engineering, of course, more or less the engineer design process, so design thinking and problem solving; arts, which is the creative expression and innovation; and then, of course, math, the analytical thinking and patterns. So what are some of the benefits of STEAM learning or STEAM approaches? We have problem solving, organic solutions to real complex problems. Dr. Mason mentioned project-based learning. So STEAM is definitely something that is connected to solving problems with project-based learning and just real life scenarios as well. STEAM also benefits inclusive learning. It appeals to a diverse group of learners. STEAM approaches and applications in education will help to build 21st century skills. And those are things that we need to become successful in this very transformative society that we live in. So 21st century skills includes the hard skills, the soft skills, and then the interpersonal skills are also connected with that for future careers. And then of course the 4 C's: creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. So when we're utilizing STEAM in education, these are some of the areas that are strengthened with those applications. Okay, so executive functions. The definition, and there are a couple different definitions for executive functions, but Dr. Russell Barkley had one of the ones that really connected with me: self-directed, especially set of actions intended to alter a delayed future outcome. So basically achieving your goals by utilizing these executive functions. And it's basically how our brain works, how our brain connects. So we have a couple of different executive functions up here, just to briefly go through: planning, organization, self-control, task initiation, and time management, which are coming tonight. Metacognition, thinking about how you're thinking or why you're doing certain things. Working memory, of course. Paying attention. Flexibility, being able to change direction at a moment's notice, because sometimes life is lifing and you have to go through that. And then perseverance, which is extremely important, especially when you're trying to achieve goals and you're going through different situations and you have to like build on that resilience no matter what happens. So time management, more specifically, is allocating and respecting time for tasks and activities. And task initiation is starting tasks without any procrastination or any delays. And this was something that came to me as I started the STEM academic advisement position a little bit less than a year ago. And I went from teaching in the classroom. I worked for a GED program called New Jersey Youth Corps, where I worked with youth at risk between the ages of 16 and 25. And so moving from the classroom into an academic advisement space, my job, as it was when I was a teacher, was just to help people become the best versions of themselves. So one of the things that I started to think about is, how would executive functions help in lieu of this new position that I have? So when I started to think about the particular students that I was working with, because I'm working with STEM students, it's biology students, students that are majoring in computer science, students that are majoring in mathematics. How could I utilize executive functions and what I learned during the EdTech master's program and within my classroom teaching? How could I utilize that to help my advisees be the best students possible? So I started to think about some of the things that our students are going through, STEM students in particular. They have these complex lab assignments. Some of them, computer science majors, they have to pick up coding, and they're doing all these things with deadlines. You also have group collaboration. You know, some students are uncomfortable working with other people. And these are like scenarios that I hear about from students when I sit down to do advisement sessions with them. So those are challenges that STEM students are having. So the skills that they require to become successful within their major are directly connected to executive functioning, especially time management and task initiation. So we're talking about planning for multi-step projects. We're talking about starting difficult tasks promptly. You might have you might get an assignment on a Sunday and it'll be due the next Sunday after. So how can we go through that efficiently without wasting time and without missing any steps? And then, of course, managing time across competing priorities, because if you're a college student, more than likely you have more than one class. We also have students that work, students that are taking care of other family members, students that are parents, students that have more than one job. You know, they might have 2 jobs and they're also juggling school. So time management and task initiation really stood out to me, because I figured the more we're able to strengthen those executive functions, the better opportunities students would have being successful in a very challenging major. So I don't know if I see we have a couple of teachers here, so I wanted to kind of like spread the gamut a bit to make sure that we could include, you know, public school teachers that are working with teenagers and even people that work in a higher education level, working with older students. Some of the things that happen during what you call executive dysfunction, that's when you're not managing your time very well, or you're not starting your task in a way that would benefit you. You don't want to be working behind the clock. So high school seniors, they might delay in asking for a college recommendation letter until the last minute. It's June and they're trying to get into a college and they waited all this time. They waited the whole school year before they reached out and they talked to their guidance counselor or to their teachers about getting them a recommendation so they can get into this school. High school freshmen, they might be struggling with communication because we have a whole generation of post-COVID students that did the majority of their communications online. So now that they're back in person, they might be introverted. They might just struggle with making connections with other students. So when it comes down to them getting a task started for the group project, they don't know how to reach out to their classmates and say, hey, what task are we divvying, or what should I be working on right now? College sophomores, for instance, working overnight to complete a biology assignment that he or she procrastinated on. And now they're like, working 10 hours, 14 hours straight. Then they're going to go to class the next day. They're exhausted. They don't have their energy. And everybody knows when you're not sleeping, it can definitely impact your overall health. And then another example, a computer science student that because of their lack of time management, they're rushing through a project and they're missing critical steps. And when you're coding, you really can't miss any steps. So these are all just scenarios of executive dysfunction that high school and college students might struggle with. And that's why they need to strengthen those executive functions through some STEAM applications and also some other things that I'm going to mention tonight. So, what is the challenge with task initiation? First, we're looking at the prevalence of procrastination. So, 80 to 95% of college students engage in procrastination, and that is a crazy number. 75%, according to research, consider themselves procrastinators, and almost 50% procrastinate consistently and problematically. Does anybody remember like what category they would fit in as a college student currently or in the past? Does anybody fit in these categories here? I mean, it's something that I've been guilty of myself, especially during my undergraduate years, which is why when I started grad school in 2021, I needed to make sure that I was setting myself up for success. So I started to research executive functions, and I ended up doing my thesis on it because it was something that I wasn't really aware of during my undergraduate years. Development, the last and hardest executive skill to reach full maturation. And that's from Dr. Peg Dawson, who, along with her partner, Dr. Guerrero, they wrote a book called Smart But Scattered Kids that speaks a lot about executive dysfunction. And they even came out with a survey that I will share later on. So that way, you and people that you know, love, take care of, or responsible for, they can kind of go through this survey to rate where their executive function strengths are and where some of their weaknesses are. And then task initiation in terms of the impact. When you don't start a task on time and then you're struggling to try to rush to get it done, it is associated with higher stress, depression, anxiety, and fatigue because you're trying to cram in something that probably would have took a couple days to get done into maybe a couple of hours. And anybody that's trying to do that, whether you're working at college as a student, or it's high school as a student, or even at your job, whatever your 9 to 5 is, you're going to be struggling with some of these things if you're not taking your task initiation serious and you're not prioritizing the work that you have to get done. So some of the things that we're going to look at in terms of STEAM applications is connecting to our interests, right? So if you're working with a biology student that has a habit of procrastinating, maybe on writing an assignment that could be based on, let's say, how the human body works. If you're suffering, if a student is struggling with that, then instead of you like putting a piece of paper in front of them and like telling them just to write something, maybe they can watch a video on YouTube, right? A lot of students have channel favorites, and there are many different ways to learn about the human body. It could be through an animation, it could be through a lecture, it could be through a teacher that just happens to do YouTube in their spare time. But maybe if a student is able to get the visuals or able to watch a video, it might spark something creatively in them where they will say, okay, I saw this, I was excited by this, or I learned something new by watching this video on the human body. Now I'm more prepared to go ahead and start that assignment. So that could be something that could get a task initiated a little better. Making it fun. Computer science students have to code a lot, but some of what they're coding might not be so exciting to them. But the process of coding, the physicality of it, typing and just paying close attention, there's other things that they could code that they might have an interest in to kind of take a break from some of the assignments that they might have to do. So instead of them jumping on to a coding assignment that might not be as interesting, maybe they can utilize an application called Pico 8, which, by the way, it's free, it's online. You can develop your own 8-bit games. So maybe in addition to the student like having some fun developing a Pico 8 game, maybe they can connect it to whatever project that they're working on. So if they're working on a computer science project that involves coding with creating a new application, maybe by using Pico 8, they can develop like a reference project or a reference game that can go with the specific computer science coding assignment that they have to do. So it's really about meeting people at their interest and making sure that in order to get them not to procrastinate, start to think about the things that they do like and see if there's a way to connect it to the assignment that they're trying to avoid. Visualization is something that is very good to combat against procrastination as well. So I found this program on the MetaQuest. It's called Prisms VR, and it basically teaches students math in a more fun and an engaging way. Everything from just basic arithmetic to all the way up into like algebra and even a bit of calculus as well is on this application. And what they do is they connect math to real world scenarios. So, for instance, one of the simulations that is in this learning application, it talks about a pandemic, not specifically what we just went through, but just a pandemic in general. And what would happen if somebody that was sick and they were contagious with something, let's say, goes to an amusement park and they pick all these different settings and they try to showcase how diseases spread, but you're using math with it. So it's like you're going through a simulation that is fun because you're doing it through virtual reality, but you're also learning math as well. So when I say step with STEAM, it's more or less like connecting the work that you may be procrastinating on with something that you actually like and seeing if there's a way that you can connect the two. So everybody has their phones. So one of the things I always say is we need to meet our students and our learners where they're at. I can't remember at any time of teaching that one of my students forgot to bring their phone. They might forget their homework assignments, they might forget their book bags, but they are not forgetting that phone. So these are applications that are right on your phone that you can download free of charge. One of them is called Forest, and Forest is basically like a timing app. So you can set the time for 10 minutes, 25 minutes, and basically, as the timer goes down, you've planted a tree and the tree continues to grow. And at the end of your task or your chore, you have a fully grown tree. And the process of you going through your task, you're basically creating a forest. And it's like something visual that can really connect to you because most of us do have a natural competitive spirit. So when you add gamified elements to some of the task that you're trying to do, it might make it that much more exciting. There's another application called Habitica, and it turns your task into rewards and achievements. So what you do when you log onto the app is you'll put the tasks that you have to do for that day. And as you complete those tasks, you basically will just press on the screen, and then there will be some type of points given to you as you go throughout the task for your day. And sometimes it's something small like that that gives us a bit of a reward. And at the end, you can compete with other classmates, you can compete with other friends to see who gets the highest score. So yes, it's one of the things that gamification brings to us, that natural sense of competition and that natural sense of wanting to be rewarded for the work that we're doing. So going with gaming is definitely a good STEAM task initiation strategy that we can utilize to help us get over the hump and get our work done. So another strategy, and this is kind of moving a little bit away from STEAM and just talking about impersonal things that we can do, is a phrase that a lot of my students used to use, link up, which basically means get together, right? Linking up, finding accountability partners was one of the things that I always preached when I worked with the New Jersey Youth Corps program, because our students had 16 weeks to earn their GED accreditation. And the one thing that they all had in common, they all had to take that GED exam. So I would say to them, try to get together if you can, right? Get together and try to learn. And that also feeds into the bottom piece here, leveraging technology. Back in the days, well, I'm kind of aging myself here, but I spent half of my life without technology, meaning like when I was in high school, there was no Zoom, there was no Skype, there was no FaceTime. But now we have those things, and our students, it's very intuitive for them to use these applications. So why not put them in a space where they're actually comfortable? So when you find your accountability partner, if you can't get with them physically and go to the library like we used to do back in the days, you can meet up with them on Zoom. You can meet up with them on Google Meet, on Microsoft Teams, whatever is more comfortable. And a lot of these applications are usable free of charge. I know Zoom does have like a time period if you're using a non-paid account, but 40 minutes is 40 minutes. So even if we have to log off and log back on, we still can find that accountability within each other, even if we're meeting virtually. Using the 5-minute rule is something that has been a thing since back when I was a undergraduate student. Like not looking at a book as a whole and saying, oh my God, I have to read this whole book. You're like manifesting this negative energy upon yourself. And it's like, take it small, take it step by step. So maybe if I get a reading assignment, even now, I will read for about 5 minutes and then I'll just jot down, I'll paraphrase whatever I just read. So that way, when I go back to it, it's not as intimidating because I've already kind of broken down what I've read through the paraphrase, and it makes it easier to pick it back up and to continue on. And then, of course, breaking down your task. Like when I was working on this presentation, I didn't just pop open PowerPoint and just start developing. I started by just like taking notes. Like, okay, when I'm speaking about executive functions, do I want to like contain all the executive functions? There's like 10 or 11 of them. I think that would be a little bit too much. So I started narrowing it down. Like, what are the executive functions that are most relevant to students right now? And they're all relevant, but there are some that may be a little bit stronger, especially from the experiences that I've been having as an academic advisor. When I speak to students, these are some of the issues they're dealing with, and time management and task initiation are constantly coming up. So instead of me like trying to put everything in a pot together, I just kind of break it down. Okay. So if I'm looking at task initiation, what about that are students having difficulties with? And then just going from there, I might just deal with the executive functions that I want to present about, and then that'll be it for the day. And then the next day I'll come back and I'll start thinking about, what are some strategies just off the top of my head that I can utilize to battle executive dysfunction. And then I'll put it away for the day. And then the next day I might say, okay, let me get into some research. Let me go on Google Scholar and see if there's any studies that have been done that can kind of connect and correlate with what I've naturally came up with. And that is an easier way to do things, because if I tried to create a PowerPoint in one day, my brain would have exploded. So I needed to make sure that I'm breaking down tasks little by little, and that will help you, because then it's not as overwhelming when you say, oh, I only have to read for 5 minutes. Let me go ahead and get this started. Okay, so those are some task initiation strategies. And here's another one, the if then planning. And it's almost like you're mentally tricking yourself in a way, but it's an easy slogan to remember, but it's just, if I do this, then I'm going to do that. Okay, so if I get home by 5 o'clock, right? Most of us have our jobs, we have our schedules. Then I'm going to get started with my readings at 6. It's just more or less a commitment to you to have the understanding I have these things that I have to do. So if this one thing goes down, then I can do this. You're setting boundaries for yourself. A lot of us love social media. We like to just scroll. There's no problem with taking a break to scroll on social media, but there should be something else that you're doing after that, especially if you're struggling with task initiation. So if you want to stay on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook for an hour, that's fine. But then you need to turn that around and make sure that you're doing coursework, or that you're doing your readings, or that you're starting your project. And then, of course, rewarding yourself, right? If I complete this assignment by 3, then I'll order food and watch my favorite show at 4. So once again, it's kind of like making these promises and commitments to yourself. And then you have something to look forward to, because I know for myself, if I procrastinate on something and I jump right into the then, like I didn't complete the assignment at 3, but I still went ahead, I ordered food, and I'm watching my favorite movie or my favorite show. When I'm eating that food, I'm gonna be honest, it's not gonna taste as good. When I'm watching that show, I'm not gonna really enjoy it the way I would like to, because in the back of my mind, I know I didn't finish that assignment. I didn't even get that assignment started. So I don't have any um pleasure in doing the things that I like, eating and watching shows, because I know that this is something that's a burden on my back and I didn't get that done. So if you plan on enjoying yourself, you need to delay your gratification. Nothing wrong with that. Make sure that you get the work done first, because then you'll sleep better at night. You'll feel better about whatever you were delaying, because you know you got the work done. So that was task initiation, just some strategies and just some explanations. Now we're going to move forward with time management and some of the impacts of what time management creates. So, emotional well being, when you're on time, it definitely reduces your stress and anxiety, because if you're running late to work, you're definitely going to feel it. If you're driving on the road, you might start driving a little reckless. You might go a little faster, which is why I always leave for work early in the morning. So if I see the Golden Arches on the way and I decide I want to grab a hash brown, I could do that. I don't have to cut people off while I'm driving. I don't have to have all that stress on my back, because I was able to manage time. Academic success, affecting grades and learning outcomes. When you are good with time management, you'll get your work done on time. You'll make sure that your projects are complete. But on the other side of that, when you don't have good time management, then you're going through a lot. You're not able to get your work in on time, which is definitely going to affect your grades. And then before you know it, you have all of this work piled up. Some professors are going to be a little flexible. They might say, okay, I'll give you an extra day for deadlines, but the syllabus is the syllabus. They don't have to do that, right? Same thing in high school. If a teacher decides they're going to give you a little extra wiggle room to get an assignment done, that's fine, but they might not. So that is one thing that time management definitely could affect in a positive and a negative way. Future opportunities, it creates professional advantages. I will tell you that being reliable is one of the best things that you can have going into a position, a job, or a career. Even if you mess up at your job, that reliability, it helps you a lot. I think that supervisors will give more grace to a person that's reliable that makes a mistake versus somebody that's not reliable and makes a mistake. So even on the flip side, if you're not making mistakes but you're not reliable, I feel like the reliable person will get a little more grace even in that instance. Because yes, you do a good job when you're here, But if you're not reliable, we don't even know when you're going to show up. So I always tell my students, showing up is really half the battle. Not just showing up, is showing up on time. Those are all things that help to build strong relationships, reliability and trust from your supervisor, from your professor, from your teacher, whatever level that you're at. You want to make sure that you are on time, because it will help to build not only your character, but what other people think about you. So, going into some strategies for time management, just going to read a little bit. Poor time management can have an outsized effect on students, impacting their emotional well-being as well as their academic success, as we just spoke about. But this is partly due to the skill's close connection to other executive functions. So even if we look at something like stress tolerance, which is an executive function, once again, if my time management is bad, my stress is going to be I'm not going to be able to tolerate it. My stress is going to be at an all-time high. Emotional control, another executive function. If my time management is bad, then my emotional control is going to be a bit off, because now I'm late. So let's say I have people that depend on me. They might have an attitude with me, and then vice versa. I'm reacting to their attitude because they needed me to be at the job at a certain time, and I showed up late, and now everybody's situation is being affected. Project management tools help learners become familiar with apps used in school and in future workspaces. This is important because I feel like I've had students on a higher ed level that really were not too familiar with Outlook. And that is what NJCU utilizes as a communication tool. So I tell them, yeah, Gmail is cool. That's all right, but you also need to become familiar with Outlook, because most workspaces, they utilize Outlook over Gmail. So like, even by taking a look at some of the tools like Google Calendar or to-do lists, right, or the Kanban board, those are things that could be used in professional spaces. So if you become comfortable with these applications and these resources while you're a high school student or while you're in college, when you get to that executive position or you're in corporate America, it won't be that much of a learning curve for you. You'll be like, oh yeah, I know how to set up my calendar on Outlook. Let me go ahead and do that now. So these things are extremely important. Regular referral and coordination are essential habits to build. And having a master calendar with due dates is an efficient and effective way to remember important priorities. One of the tips that I was reading about even said, if you're a teacher and you're in the classroom, create a Google Calendar for your whole class. And that way you're kind of getting them into the habit of seeing what's next to come. And then they can all log in from their respective accounts and they can check that Google Calendar. So repetition is also important when it comes down to utilizing technology. So Google Calendar, Microsoft Outlook, these are just a couple of the applications that you can utilize to help you with time management. I have literally my whole syllabus, thanks to my wife. She put like my whole syllabus into my Google Calendar. So I'm able to like see, oh, I got this assignment for Dr. Mason this week. Oh, I got this paper for Dr. Schamberg. And the way she set it up, it pops up 3 days before the due date. So in my mind, I know I have work done, but that Google Calendar is like a final reinforcement just in case I might forget something, and I can say, oh, that's right. Let me start getting on this project now. So it's been very effective and very helpful for me. So I read some very interesting statistics that really made me laugh. And this came from the Princeton Speech Language and Learning Center. And it talked about the heavy occurrence of time blind learners. And these are like adolescents that don't pay attention to time at all. And it was so funny when I read this because I immediately connected. I used to sit at the front desk at New Jersey Youth Corps. So when students come in, I'm the first person to greet them. They had to be in school by 9 o'clock. Anything after that, they would receive a consequence for. So they would sign in when they came to the front desk. And I'll never forget, there was 2 instances. One time a student came in with an expensive watch on his wrist. I mean, it wasn't a Rolex, but it was bling bling and it was shining. And he looks at the paper and he's about to sign his name and he says, "Mr. Bailey, what time is it?" And I looked at him and I said, "You got your watch." The big hand, little hand, apparently he had forgot that lesson because he stared at his watch and he said, "I don't know what time it is." So I had to give a quick little mini lesson about time on the big hand, little hand. And then he was like, "All right, cool." I said, "You wearing a watch and you don't even know what time it is." That was one situation. And another time, student literally walked in and asked me what time it was, and their phone was in their hand. And you know that phone is like glued to students' hands. So I'm like, look at your phone. Like, how you got a phone in your hand? You ask me what time it is. So a lot of times students are just they got a lot going on. They're not even paying attention to what's in front of them. So this other piece of what the Princeton Speech and Language Learning Center also discussed was that visual timers are more effective than a standard clock. And that's where we go back to those old school clocks that have the big and little hand, the clocks on the wall that a lot of us older folks grew up with. They're just not as effective for the younger populations. So, what we like to do, or what I like to do during that time in class, was I would pull up a timer on YouTube and I would put it on the smart board when students were working. So you got your 25 minutes and the countdown will be up there. Focus work with a visual timer. So that way they don't have to keep asking me, "Mr. Bailey, how much time I got? Mr. Bailey, how much time I got?" They could just look at the screen and they're able to see that. And then they get their 5-minute break. We were big on breaks in youth corps, making sure students could just take a walk down the hall, get some fresh air, and come back. And then 4 sessions of 25-minute intervals were a complete cycle for productive study. And this definitely helped a lot because sometimes you just lose track of time and you might feel like, "Oh my God, I've been sitting here for an hour," and it might only be 5 minutes. So the visual timers were a great help to help with the executive function of time management. Okay. So prioritizing and just saying no. I know it's such a simplistic thing, but I always tell our students sometimes the answer is no. "Yo, we're gonna go out and party tomorrow night. We need you to be there." I can't do it. I can't do everything, right? The reality is one can't be everything to everybody all the time. So you have to set those boundaries. So for parents, teaching your children how to set boundaries at an early age is so important, because I remember feeling like, especially during my undergrad, my first 2 years, that I had to be at every function. I had to be there. It was connected to my identity. If I wasn't there, they were like, "Oh, Doug, you didn't come to the party last night. What's going on with you?" So that's something, as I got older, I learned, especially, you know 15 years after undergrad, going to graduate school. I'm telling my older friends, like, "Nah, I got to focus on this." And of course, at that age, you're a little bit more willing to say no. But, peer pressure can be very difficult. So a lot of students feel like they can't say no when they're in high school, when they're in their early years of their undergraduate studies. They feel like saying no is like the worst thing in the world. So that's an easy time management strategy. Just saying, "No, I have other things that I have to focus on." And your real friends, they will respect that. So to the right, we have the Eisenhower matrix, and basically it's a chart that we can utilize to set our priorities. Okay, so you have 4 different categories. You have urgent and important. That's anything that's due tomorrow. Your assignment that's due tomorrow, that's something that you have to get done right away. So that's going to be number 1. Number 2 is going to be important but not urgent. So I have my research term paper due in 3 weeks. Yeah, I want to go ahead and start maybe working on that outline I talked about, task initiation, but I'm not going to dig that deep. I'm just going to say, "Okay, this is what I need to work on." It's important, but it's not urgent. Then we have urgent, but not important. It's urgent because we always hear these chimes going off on our phone. So it feels like, "Oh, somebody just responded to my comment on Facebook. Oh, wow, somebody just liked my picture on Instagram." But it's not the most important thing. It is urgent because of the notification, but it's not important. And then neither urgent nor important, browsing random videos online. They didn't say specific videos that connect to your biology project. They're saying random videos. So that's just anything that is not going to help you academically or professionally. Just something that is just there. So the Eisenhower matrix is another good time management strategy that you can utilize to kind of help you stay on point with time. Now, I haven't been able to check the chat since I've been presenting, but I will get to questions and things of that nature as soon as possible. We're almost done here. So, SMART goals. Very important for setting goals. Goals are a part of every aspect of business, life, and they provide a sense of direction, motivation, a clear focus, and they clarify importance. So I say that to say, don't let anything distract you. You can turn those notifications off on your phone. You most certainly can. So if you're not utilizing like the Forest app to like do the countdowns, turn your phone off or make sure you turn off the notifications and set up specific time from 3 to 6, from 10 to 1. You're not going to touch your phone. You're not going to respond to it. It's just going to be in the corner. I mean, your immediate family, you know, your partner, they know how to get in touch with you if they have to, but that's just to kind of cut down on the noise that happens oftentimes when we're trying to get stuff done. So SMART goals speak to specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals or timely goals. So when you're setting the SMART goal, you have to kind of go through each piece of this acronym to make sure that it's connecting to what you need. So it needs to be clear. What specifically am I working on? Oh, I'm working on this discussion board piece that focuses on STEAM applications. Like, don't just say I'm working on homework because that's too broad. You need to make sure that it's specific to whatever you're working on. Measurable, right? I know as in the doctoral program, even in the grad program, we had to respond to at least 2 of our classmates on a discussion board. So that's measurable. Like I did my one comment, I got to do my second comment. Achievable. It has to be something that's realistic. And normally with discussion boards, we're getting the reading material that we need, or we're looking at a YouTube video that we can pull thoughts from. So yes, that's definitely realistic, especially now that NJCU offers free books for us. Yeah, you know, it's all there. Is it relevant? Of course. Anything that I'm doing on a discussion board is relevant to my program. So I'm learning new things, and even more importantly, or just as important, I'm sharing ideas with my counterparts. Always good, still sharpen steels. And then time bound, it's due on Sunday at midnight. You know, we're setting our deadline to create that urgency and that focus. So when you're thinking about what you have to do, run it through the SMART goals acronym to make sure that it's something that is actually specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. And then this is just some repeating and reinforcing just for both of the executive functions that we spoke about tonight. So if you're a teacher, you can do time challenges in class. It's something we always did in New Jersey Youth Corps. Like when I used to have to teach students how to write an argumentative essay, you know, I would say, okay, that first paragraph, you got 15 minutes for that. And then I would put the 15-minute timer on the board. Sometimes I would add a scaffold up there, like something that I wrote, but I would like leave blank spaces so that the students can fill in their own ideas and thoughts. Checkpoints for projects, right? Just something that if a student is working on a science project, this is part 1 of the science project. This is part 2. Make sure as an educator you have those checkpoints, because that way I can get the pat on the back after checkpoint 1 that I really need to give me the confidence to continue through with it. Because I'm telling you, when I used to give students projects in Youth Corps, especially because of some of the conditions they came out of, I had students that weren't used to doing a project. They say, Mr. Bailey, I dropped out of school because I wasn't doing my work. So now here you are putting a whole argumentative essay, 5 paragraphs in front of me. Nah, we need those checkpoints. So after the intro paragraph, I'm gonna take a look at it. I'm gonna do my constructive criticism, but I'm gonna pat you on the back and say that's a great job. And you know what? That little motivation, that's what's going to get you to go ahead and start paragraph 2, because you know that Mr. Bailey, he appreciated what I did in paragraph 1 versus having them write 5 whole paragraphs and then checking everything at the end. They might be stuck on paragraph 1 for a whole day and you didn't realize it. Virtual escape rooms, very, very popular now. This is also going to connect to those 4 C's: communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaborating. So we can set up virtual escape rooms. They have a couple of them available free online that teachers can provide to students and really get those juices flowing. And then group activities, once again, to build the 4 C's outside of the virtual escape room, doing things in person, having students kind of work together on collaborative efforts are very important. For parents, right? One of the things that we talk about is executive functions. It's a lifelong experience. It's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym 1 day a week, then your muscle strength is not going to really be there. But if you're going 4 or 5 days a week, then you're really talking about retaining and building that muscle. And the brain, it needs to be built on. So I say that to say executive function doesn't stop when class ends. It even continues when you get home. So for parents, when you establish weekly routines, right? When you have those chores due on Monday, I wash dishes at 5 o'clock. On Tuesday, I mow the lawn at 4 o'clock. Those are also helping to strengthen time management and task initiation. Narrating the planning process, something that my mom used to do all the time. She would explain to me why she's doing certain things. So, for instance, if she has an appointment, so my mom worked as a director for an Upward Bound program at SUNY Purchase in New York. So when she used to have to kind of like plan out the summer schedule because it was a summer program, she used to say, Douglas, I'm creating this calendar because on these days we have to do this. Half of our stuff is academic, half of it's recreation. This is my thought process on why I'm doing this. Share with your children what you're doing. If you have to go pay bills at a certain date at a certain time, explain that to them. Explain how that process works. If I pay my credit card late, these are some of the penalties. Therefore, I need to get started with paying these bills and I need to manage my time on how I pay these bills, because if not, then I'm going to be developing interest. And then that could create a bigger conversation with financial literacy, something that parents need to start sharing with their children more. Balancing chores with fun, right? So even when we talked about earlier, kind of you rewarding yourself or your student rewarding themselves when they get stuff done, as a parent, that's something else that you can do. I remember, my dad, he like Chinese food, that was our thing on Fridays. But in order for me to get that Chinese food, I had to make sure throughout the week I'm completing all the chores and all the tasks that were set in front of me. So, I'm looking forward to that Chinese food on Friday because, I got to make sure I do all of these things and it's going to lead to that. So there's nothing wrong with rewarding your children for work that they're doing. And then modeling good executive function skills for yourself, right? If you're a parent and you have children, make sure that you're good on your task initiation, that you're good on time management, because actions definitely speak louder than words. So when your child sees that you're getting things done and you're getting things done in a timely manner, that's something that they will emulate, because that's what I did. Even if during those teenage years, you kind of like, it's kind of uncool to be like your parents. So you do slack off a bit. But once that seed is like a biblical term, it's like when the seed is planted, your child will always come back around. And that's true because the older I get, the more like my father I'm becoming. But when I was 20, it was like I wasn't trying to be like my dad, but now it's like those seeds that he planted, they're coming to fruition now, more or less. So those are different repeating and reinforcements that parents and teachers can use to strengthen executive functions. So the final overview, recognizing executive functioning challenges, right? And that's why I have this survey and the website Smart But Scattered Kids I'm going to share at the end, because identifying weaknesses in your executive functioning, it is a strength. If you know that you're not great at time management, if you know you're not great with flexibility, that's something that you can work on. There are strategies, there are many books that have been written to help you develop and work on those executive functions. Apply STEAM approaches, interdisciplinary strategies to build executive function skills. So that's when we talk about some of the technology, some of the STEAM technology that we utilized earlier on. Like, for instance, If you have a student that's very artistic, right? Speaking about the arts of STEAM, and let's say they have to work on a biology project, maybe they can create some imagery to go along with that project to help get them started. Maybe the writing piece of it is something that's intimidating to them, but maybe they can create something artistically that will help them build the confidence to be able to start the writing process. So it's just those small things that we want to utilize when it comes to STEAM approaches. Practicing consistently, developing routines that strengthen both time management and the task initiation. So that's making sure that you have a schedule every day, that you're being intentional about the goals with SMART goals, that you're being intentional with taking the tasks that you have and putting them on Outlook calendar or putting them on your Google Calendar, and then achieving success by increasing your productivity, efficiency, and reaching your academic goals by utilizing the things that we just spoke about. Okay, so that will be the end of the presentation. I have my contact information there if you want to reach out. And then, of course, this QR code will lead you directly to the Smart But Scattered Kids website by Dr. Guerra and Dr. Dawson. And on that website, they have the executive functioning self-test survey that you can test. It's not about putting you on blast. This is stuff that you want to know for yourself. You don't have to tell anybody what your executive dysfunction is, but if you can like analyze and say, okay, these are areas I need to work on, then it will only benefit you in the future and in the present, of course, as well. So I'm going to just take a scroll down to the chat because I didn't get a chance. And thank you all for the support for coming this evening. I was very nervous. I've done public speaking. I worked in entertainment for many years, but this was more intimidating than any stage that I've ever graced or any interview, celebrity interview that I've ever done in my life. So I appreciate your patience and thank you so much. I really do appreciate you all. Thank you all. Yeah, so I mean, executive functions, something that we all can work on. And this is for the personal you, this is for you as an educator, for your students, for you as a parent, for your children, for you as a supervisor, for your employees, however you want to utilize this. It's all relevant to the process. So thank you again. Yeah.